Back again with another review, and today we're going to talk about and review Dutch from 1991. 1991 road comedy which stars Ed O'Neill and directed by Peter Feynman and written by John Hughes. But the plot of the film, so Ed O'Neill from Married with Children, he's our main character Dutch. He's a blue-collar working man, and he's dating JoBeth Williams in the film, and he volunteers to pick up her 13-year-old son, Doyle, played by Ethan Embry. But it's weird because in the beginning of the film he's credited as Ethan Randall, but this kid Doyle goes to a prep school in Atlanta, and that's where he's at. So Dutch has to pick him up and bring him home to Chicago for Thanksgiving, and along their journey, they butt heads, they go through difficult times, and eventually come to bond. And that's the plot of the film here. But the cast here, Ed O'Neill as Dutch, I thought he did a good job. I mean, some people can say, this is pretty much Al Bundy. I would say it's a little bit more dialed back, because when you look at, Married with Children, which I never watched the show growing up, but, going back and looking at clips on YouTube, and, you just imagine if that show came out today, people's heads would explode because of what they were able to get away with. But, I do like Ed O'Neill, and I'm pretty sure that's why they casted him here. I mean, this is right in the middle of that run as Al Bundy, 1991 here. But, he's the character of Dutch, he is charming, and he doesn't hold back, when he goes off on the kid, and I appreciate that. The kid Doyle, played by Ethan Embry, I will say, in the first half of the film, this kid is a dickwad, spoiled brat. And, this is a kid that you would drop off in the middle of nowhere, which Dutch did in the film. When that character did that in the film, I'm like, yes, it's about time, drop this kid off in the middle of a field, and he has to walk back 50 miles. So, I mean, eventually, in the second half of the film, they bond, and they kind of get over that, of butting heads. But in the first half of that film, you just want to knock the kid out. I'm talking about the character. But yeah, that the first half of the film, the kid is a spoiled brat, dickhead, jerk, prick that you want to fucking drop off. I don't know. But again, I talk about the character. JoBeth Williams is in here for a little bit as the mother of Doyle. There's not too much to her character. I mean, we know that Dutch is dating JoBeth in the film, but there's not a lot to her character. Christopher McDonald is in the film, but he's not in it too much. Kind of a little bit in the beginning, and then at the very end of the film. You have a scene so there's a scene in the film where, I have to mention this, there's a couple of hookers that Dutch and Doyle hitch a ride from. And one of the hookers is E.G. Daily. And I'm like, why does that name sound familiar? She's the voice of Tommy Pickles in Rugrats. The hooker that's driving the car in the film, that's the voice of Tommy Pickles from Rugrats. So this is around that time she was doing Tommy Pickles, I'm sure. But, the cast here is fine. I mean, Ed O'Neill, again, he's the lead character here. He's the best part of the film, because he's good and charming and non-PC at times. And the character of Doyle, like I said, I didn't really like the first half because you get tired of this kid real fast. But it does get better in the second half where they bond a little bit more and so forth. So the cast is good here. Now, directed by Peter Feynman. Now, prior to this, Peter Feynman had directed Crocodile Dundee, which, that was one of the biggest films of that year it came out. And after this, he didn't really do too much. I think, right after he produced Ferngully, that animated film. I'm guessing because, when this film came out, I mean, it was a bomb. I mean, it came out like just 2 weeks after Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So, it was overshadowed by T2 and it was poorly received. But, over the years, it's gained a cult following. And it was written by John Hughes, the director of The Breakfast Club and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which, a lot of people will say about this film, it's very similar to Planes and Trains. And I can see it. I mean, you look at the plot, they're trying to get home for Thanksgiving. In this film, you have Ed O'Neill, he's the boyfriend of the mother, and he's picking up, her son to bring him home to Chicago. So there's definitely quite a bit of, elements here that, is similar to Planes and Trains. But what I liked and enjoyed about Dutch, Ed O'Neill, he's charming and funny. A blue-collar guy that will get his way and will not be politically correct about how to handle this kid. And, when he gets out of line, I don't screw around. You piss me off, I react. I'm not your daddy, I'm not your friend, I'm not your uncle, I'm a working class nobody, and I don't take crap from kiddies. And so he has some good lines in the film, and there's some fun moments with that character where he goes off on the kid, but so they do butt heads for a bit, but when they try to bond, there's some good scenes. I mean, you got the one scene where Dutch tries to warm up to the kid by playing with these fireworks. There's a scene where he's trying to show him how to hitchhike, by looking sad and pathetic. And, there's a scene in the film where they get picked up by hookers, which, looking back, I mean, you can say that's not really smart on Dutch's part. He should have seen, hey, these girls are hookers, but that did happen. Any minor dislikes about the film? Again, Ethan Embry's character in the first half, I've said it before, I'll say it again, in the first half of the film, or if you want to say the first 3/4 of the film, this kid Doyle is a dickwad, jerk, spoiled brat. But it does get better as we're coming, getting towards the end of the film. They do bond, so as far as that's my only little minor dislike. As far as side notes and stuff, there were plans to do a sequel, which never materialized. And I don't know how they would have done a sequel to this. As for the character of Dutch, John Candy was the first choice. Other people considered Tim Allen, Tom Hanks, Jim Belushi, Robin Williams, John Goodman, and Bill Murray. John Candy would have been interesting, but I think it would have been too much. I mean, this film is already like Planes and Trains, and I think that would have been very much like Planes and Trains. Tim Allen would have been interesting, but I don't think he would have been as known. Tom Hanks, I don't know. Jim Belushi, interesting choice. Robin Williams, maybe. John Goodman, I can see. Bill Murray, I can see. So those names were considered. In an interview, Ed O'Neill states that during the shooting of the film, John Hughes was calling him every day, like they were best friends. Ed O'Neill was even invited to John Hughes' house for dinner, and they were supposed to do other films together, but as soon as the movie underperformed at the box office, John Hughes never spoke to Ed O'Neill again, ever again, or the director Peter Feynman. Which I don't know why. I mean, I understand the film bombed, but to cut off any, Ed O'Neill, he was pretty much tied down with Married with Children, so I don't know how much more he could have done. As far as films, comedies, being tied down in a big sitcom. But I don't, why did John Hughes cut off the friendship or stop talking to him because of the film bombing? But anyways, but overall, Dutch, it's a good road comedy that's also charming. Ed O'Neill, portraying this working man type that has a little bit of that Al Bundy persona that makes it fun and sometimes un-PC. And while it does share elements of Planes and Trains, and that is definitely the better film, you can say that this is more of a family-friendly Planes and Trains that delivers some good moments of hardships and bonding. So, yeah, that's my review of Dutch. And out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Dutch 3.5. So 3.5 stars out of 5. So, yeah, that's my review of Dutch. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.